The stars stretched like silver lines across the black sea of space. The UAS Endeavour moved silently through that endless dark, her engines humming like a heartbeat in the void. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the glowing stars ahead. For 3 weeks, the crew had traveled away from Earth's colonies, deeper than any human had ever gone. The mission was peaceful: explore, learn, and make contact if possible. But today felt different. The air was heavy. Everyone on the bridge could feel it. "Captain," said Ensign Claire from communications, "we're receiving signals, unknown origin." Jake turned his gaze toward her. His voice was calm but carried weight. "Can you translate it?" "Working on it, sir," she said, fingers moving fast over her console. "It's definitely not human. Structure's complex, but we can decode." The crew held their breath as the sound of strange words filled the air, smooth, musical tones that no one had ever heard before. Then, the ship's translator spoke. "Human vessel, this is the Zetherian Confederation. You are entering protected space. Identify yourselves." The words echoed across the bridge. Jake took a deep breath. This was it, the first contact with alien life. "Put them on screen," he ordered. The main display came to life. A figure appeared, tall, with blue skin and 4 slender arms. Its eyes were large and black, reflecting light like dark glass. It wore a silver uniform that shimmered faintly. "I am Wheeler Kess," it said, "commander of the Zetherian Confederation patrol ship Tessarian. You are humans, yes. We have been observing your signals for many cycles. You are new to the stars." Jake kept his face calm. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Allied Systems. We come in peace." Beside him, Dr. Lisa Grant, the ship's xenobiologist, whispered, "Notice how he talks. He thinks we're children." Wheeler's mouth curved slightly, maybe a smile, maybe something else. "Your faster-than-light technology is impressive for such a young species," he said. "You must have been lucky to discover it." Commander Alex Carter, standing near the security console, frowned. His instincts screamed that something was off. He had seen that tone before, the tone of conquerors pretending to be friends. His hand drifted close to his holstered weapon. Jake continued, "We're explorers. We seek knowledge, not conflict." Wheeler nodded slowly. "The Confederation has ruled this part of space for thousands of years. We protect young species like yours. Space is dangerous, Captain Morrison. Mistakes can destroy entire planets." The bridge fell silent. Protect. Or control. Dr. Grant studied the alien's body language, quietly recording everything. Her training told her one thing: Wheeler was lying about something. Jake spoke carefully. "We appreciate your concern. What kind of protection do you offer?" Wheeler's dark eyes blinked once. "Simple," he said. "We guide new civilizations. We keep them safe from threats. In exchange, they provide a few resources and follow certain limits on expansion. A small price for peace." Lieutenant Ryan Beck, the ship's sensor officer, was running scans quietly. The data on his screen made him freeze. The alien ship was large, yes, but its weapons were outdated. Its shields were strong but slow. In a fair fight, the Endeavour might even win. Ryan leaned closer to Commander Carter and whispered, "Sir, they're bluffing. That ship's power grid is old. They're showing off, not threatening." Carter's eyes narrowed. "They want us to think they're gods," he muttered. Jake nodded slowly at Wheeler. "We will take your proposal to our leaders. Humans don't make fast decisions." Wheeler's smile faded slightly. "Slow decisions are dangerous, Captain. The universe does not wait for the weak." That word, weak, hung in the air like poison. Dr. Grant stepped forward. "Are the other species in your confederation happy with your protection?" Wheeler didn't blink. "Of course," he said. "They live in peace under our watch. You will too. But the tone behind his words sounded like a command, not a promise. Jake ended the call. Communication off, he said firmly. The screen went black, leaving only the quiet hum of the bridge. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then Carter broke the silence. Sir, I don't like this. They're acting like they own us already. Dr. Grant nodded. He's hiding something. His heartbeat rate changed when I asked about the other species. Jake looked out at the stars again. His mind raced. They think we're weak. They think Earth will bend. Let them believe that, for now. Ryan turned his chair. Captain, what if they're planning something? Their ship is holding position near the trade route. They could be watching us. Jake nodded. Then we watch them too. Prepare a deep scan. I want to know everything about that ship. The crew moved quickly, tension thick in the air. Minutes later, Ryan's console beeped. Captain, I've got something. Another signal, faint, just beyond their ship. Smaller crafts, several of them. Zetherian ships? Carter asked. Ryan frowned. No, sir. Different signature. Looks damaged. Maybe distress beacons. Dr. Grant's eyes widened. Other species they've protected. Jake's voice hardened. Lock on to those signals. Let's see what kind of peace the Confederation really offers. Outside, the Endeavor's scanners reached into the dark. Hidden behind the bright glow of the Zetherian ship were the remains of smaller vessels, broken, drifting, silent. Jake stared at the screen as the truth unfolded. The Zetherians weren't guardians. They were conquerors, and Earth had just caught their attention. He straightened his uniform. Send a secure message to UAS command, he said quietly. Tell them the galaxy isn't peaceful. Tell them we've just met the wrong kind of enemy. The crew looked at each other. The stars outside no longer looked beautiful. They looked dangerous, alive, watching. And for the first time, humanity realized the silence of space was not peace. It was the calm before the storm. The UAS Endeavor drifted through the cold silence, its engines running low to avoid detection. Captain Jake Morrison stood beside the main screen, staring at the image of the wrecked ships hidden behind the Zetherian vessel. Those ships weren't pirates. They were once proud vessels, different shapes, different designs, each from another world. And all of them were broken, lifeless, left to rot in the shadow of the so-called protectors. Jake's jaw tightened. So that's their peace, he muttered. Dr. Lisa Grant crossed her arms, her voice quiet but firm. They destroy the ones who refuse protection. That's not peace, that's control. Commander Alex Carter stepped forward. We should go back to command, Captain. Bring evidence. If we stay here too long, they'll know we're scanning them. Jake didn't respond immediately. His eyes stayed on the empty ships. If we leave now, we may never find out what really happened. They'll cover their tracks. He turned. We need proof, something they can't deny. Lieutenant Ryan Beck raised his hand. Captain, I can send a probe. Small, stealth design. It can record everything from close range. Do it, Jake ordered. But keep it invisible. I don't want to start a war today. Ryan nodded and activated the probe. On the screen, a small metal sphere detached from the Endeavor and disappeared into the black. It glided toward the wrecks, recording every piece of twisted metal and burned hulls. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then, the probe signal came through, clear images of destroyed ships, with alien symbols scorched into their sides. Dr. Grant gasped. Those markings, they're surrender signals. They weren't fighting. They were asking for mercy. Before anyone could respond, the main console beeped sharply. Ensign Claire turned from her station. Captain. Incoming message from the Zetherian ship. Jake straightened. Put it through. Velarkess appeared again, his expression calm, but his tone colder. Captain Morrison. We detect your probe activity near restricted coordinates. Such actions are considered hostile. Jake replied evenly. We were scanning for navigation data. Standard procedure. Wheeler's dark eyes seemed to study him. You are not authorized to enter this sector. Withdraw immediately. Dr. Grant whispered. He knows. Wheeler's voice deepened. Do not mistake our patience for weakness, Captain. The Confederation values peace, but we have limits. The screen went black. Carter slammed his fist on the console. They caught us. They'll move on us next. Jake looked at Ryan. Retrieve the probe, now. Ryan tried, but his fingers froze. Captain, they've locked onto it. The signal's gone. Outside, the stars lit up as the Zetherian ship powered its weapons. Blue energy glowed along its sides like veins of lightning. Shields up! Carter shouted. The Endeavor's shield field flared alive, surrounding the ship in a silver glow. The first energy bolt hit a second later, shaking the deck. Direct hit on the forward shield. Ryan called out. Jake gripped the command rail. Return fire, minimal strength. We're not starting this fight, but we're ending their threat. Laser beams shot from the Endeavor, hitting the Zetherian hull. The enemy's shields absorbed most of it, but one section sparked. Dr. Grant steadied herself. Captain, they're testing us. They don't want to destroy us, they want to see how strong we are. Jake nodded grimly. Then we'll show them just enough to make them think twice. He turned to Carter. Target their weapon grid. Disable, don't destroy. Carter grinned slightly. Yes, sir. The next volley from the Endeavor hit the Zetherian ship's side. The blue glow dimmed, then flickered out. For a moment, everything went still. Then, a sudden transmission burst across the comm. Wheeler's face returned, this time furious. You dare fire upon a vessel of the Confederation? Jake's voice was steel. You attacked first. We defended ourselves. Wheeler leaned closer to the screen, his voice low and sharp. You do not understand, human. The Confederation keeps peace by removing chaos. And you are chaos. The signal cut. Dr. Grant whispered. They'll send more ships. Jake turned toward the tactical map. Then we need to leave before they arrive. Plot a course back to UAS command, but avoid the main route. We can't lead them home. Ryan began working fast. Course set, sir. We'll enter slipstream in 30 seconds. Carter kept his eyes on the radar. Multiple contacts appearing behind them. They're coming fast. Jake gritted his teeth. Hold steady. As soon as the drive is ready, jump. The Endeavor shook again as more energy blasts hit the shields. The hull groaned, alarms screamed, and sparks lit the bridge. 10 seconds. Ryan shouted. Another hit. The lights flickered. Dr. Grant grabbed the railing. Jake. 5 seconds. A final blue blast hit the ship, but before it could pierce the shields, the Endeavor vanished into slipstream, leaving a fading echo of light behind. Silence returned to space. Inside the slipstream, the stars stretched once more, endless and unreal. The crew stood in silence, breathing hard. Jake finally spoke. Damage report. Carter answered, minor hull damage, shields down to 40%. We were lucky. Jake nodded slowly. No, they were lucky. If I'd given the order to fire full power. Dr. Grant interrupted gently. You did the right thing, Captain. We needed to live to warn Earth. Jake turned toward the stars sliding past. Warn them, yes, but I think the Zetherians already know where we're from. Ryan looked up. Sir. Jake's eyes were dark with worry. That first signal they sent us, it was scanning us too. They've got our ship's ID, our routes, everything. The crew went quiet. Carter's voice was low. So they'll come. Jake nodded. Yes. The Confederation will come. And when they do, Earth must be ready. Outside the viewport, the light of the stars flickered like distant fires. The silence of space had changed. It no longer felt empty. It felt alive, watching, waiting. And deep in the void behind them, Zetherian ships began to gather, hundreds of them, awakening from the darkness. 3 days after the Endeavour escaped the Zetherians, the crew finally reached the outer edges of UAS space. The stars here were familiar again. Calmer, warmer. But the comfort was short-lived. The entire ship felt the same thing Captain Jake Morrison did. The storm was coming. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of the systems. Jake stood in front of the large view window, watching the blue curve of Mars colony grow larger below. "Send the report to command," he said quietly. "Everything. The wrecks, the attack, their threat." Lieutenant Ryan Beck nodded. "Transmitting now, Captain." Dr. Lisa Grant looked pale. She hadn't slept much since the battle. "Do you think command will believe us?" she asked softly. Jake turned to her. "They'll have to. Once they analyze the data, they'll see the truth." Carter crossed his arms. "Let's hope they act fast. Those things out there aren't just explorers, they're empire builders." The main screen blinked. "Incoming transmission from UAS Command, Captain," Claire announced. "Put it through." Admiral Thomas Hale appeared on the display, a man with gray hair and eyes as cold as steel. "Captain Morrison," he said, his tone sharp. "We received your report. If what you're saying is true, this Confederation could be the greatest threat humanity has ever faced." Jake nodded. "It's real, sir. They're watching us. They already know where Earth is." The Admiral's face hardened. "Then we can't stay blind. The Council has authorized full defense readiness. You are to bring Endeavour to Lunar Command for debriefing." "Yes, Admiral." The transmission ended. Carter exhaled. "Well, that's it. We just pulled the fire alarm." Jake looked back at the stars. "And now the fire's coming." Hours later, the Endeavour approached the moon. Massive defense stations surrounded it, their metallic shells glowing with light. Dozens of ships floated in formation, cruisers, frigates, and the enormous carrier Atlas Prime. Humanity's pride. As they docked, the crew was met with applause and camera flashes, reporters, soldiers, officers. But Jake felt no pride. He felt only the weight of what he'd seen. Inside the briefing hall, the air was tense. Screens showed images of the Zetherian ship, the wrecks, and the alien's face. Every officer stared at the evidence in silence. Admiral Hale stood at the front. "The Zetherians claim to protect civilizations. We now know that means domination. We believe they've conquered dozens of species." He looked around the room. "And they will come for us next." The room erupted with voices. "Can we fight them?" someone asked. "Do we even have the firepower?" Jake stepped forward. "Their ships are powerful but not invincible. Their technology is old, predictable. We have speed, adaptability, and the element of surprise." An engineer from the back said, "So you're saying we can win?" Jake met his gaze. "I'm saying we can fight. And that's more than their other victims could do." The Admiral nodded. "Then we prepare. From this moment, Operation Iron Horizon begins." The word spread through every ship, every base, every soldier. Humanity was preparing for its first interstellar war. That night, Jake stood on the observation deck, staring down at the glowing curve of Earth. Clouds drifted over oceans like soft smoke. "Home." Dr. Grant joined him quietly. "It's strange," she said. "We always looked at the stars and thought of peace. Now I look at them and see danger." Jake smiled faintly. "Maybe that's what growing up as a species means. Realizing peace isn't given, it's defended." She looked at him. "Do you think we'll survive?" Jake's voice was calm but certain. "We have no choice but to." Far across the galaxy, deep in Zetherian space, Velar Kess knelt before a towering hologram, a creature larger, older, and far more terrifying. Its voice echoed through the chamber like thunder underwater. "You failed to control them, Velar." Velar bowed his head. "Forgive me, High Chancellor. They were more capable than expected. Then they must be broken before others see their defiance. Send the fleet. Burn their colonies if you must. Let their home world understand what it means to refuse the Confederation." Velar raised his head, his eyes glowing faintly. "As you command." Behind him, hundreds of Zetherian warships began to move, engines roaring, lights blazing like stars being born. 2 weeks later, deep space sensors near the edge of human territory picked up something. Massive energy spikes, dozens of them. At the same moment, alarms blared through the defense stations. "Unidentified contacts approaching from Sector 9 to 3, a young officer shouted. "Speed, faster than anything we've seen." On the command deck, Admiral Hale turned toward the holographic map. A swarm of red dots appeared, a fleet, spreading across the edge of the screen like blood. He tapped his comm. "All ships, this is Admiral Hale. The Zetherians are coming. Stand by for battle readiness." The alarm echoed across every UAS ship. On the Endeavour, Carter strapped into his chair. "Here we go again." Dr. Grant looked pale but determined. "We warned them. Now we fight." Jake's eyes locked on the radar, on the sea of red dots that marked their enemy. "Helm," he said quietly. "Set course to intercept." "Sir." Jake's voice grew firm. "We started this contact. We'll be the first to meet them. Humanity doesn't run." The engines roared to life. The Endeavour turned toward the incoming fleet. Across the system, hundreds of ships aligned beside it, a wall of steel and courage. The Zetherians came with fire. Humanity waited with defiance. And between those stars, war was about to begin. The blackness of space was quiet, too quiet. Every ship in the United Allied Systems fleet waited at the edge of the Sol sector. Thousands of humans stared at their screens, waiting for the first glimpse of the enemy. Inside the UAS Endeavour, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the center of the bridge. His crew moved with silent focus, every sound, a beep, a click, echoing like thunder. "Report," Jake said calmly. Lieutenant Ryan Beck looked up from his console. "Enemy fleet confirmed, Captain. 40 warships entering range, main formation, plus smaller escorts. Zetherian signatures match our scans." Commander Alex Carter leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "They came prepared this time." Jake nodded slowly. "We were expecting them." Dr. Lisa Grant, standing near the science console, whispered, "It's really happening. Humanity's first real space war." Jake didn't turn. "And the last thing they'll ever expect," he said, "is that we're ready." Moments later, the communication channel lit up. Velar Kess appeared on the main screen, his blue skin glowing under the cold light of his command bridge. "Captain Morrison," he said with a calm smile, "you should have accepted our protection. Now, your species will understand obedience." Jake's voice was steady. "You threatened our worlds, destroyed others, and called it peace. We don't obey tyrants." Velar's smile faded. "Then you will burn." The transmission ended. Carter looked at Jake. "Here we go, sir." Jake gave a sharp nod. "All ships, defensive positions. Target their lead cruiser. Hold fire until my mark." The Zetherian fleet spread out like wings of a beast. Their ships were dark, glowing with blue energy. Then, light. A storm of plasma fire filled the void. Blue beams streaked toward the human line. "Evasive pattern Delta." Jake ordered. The Endeavour spun aside as one of the beams grazed its shields, sending a flash of sparks through the bridge. The hull shook, but the ship held. "Shields at 80%. Ryan called out. Jake's voice was firm. "Fire at will." The Endeavour's forward cannons came alive, firing streams of red plasma. Across the fleet, human ships unleashed their fury. The black of space turned into a storm of color, blue against red, light against dark. One Zetherian ship exploded in a burst of white fire. The crew cheered. For one heartbeat, hope filled the air. Carter grinned. That's one down. But then, sensors screamed. Multiple new contacts. Ryan shouted. They're deploying drones, hundreds of them. The screen filled with smaller blips, mechanical attackers spreading out like a swarm of glowing insects. Dr. Grant gasped. They're self-guided weapons, intelligent ones. Target the swarm. Jake shouted. The Endeavor's defense cannons opened fire. Red flares filled space as the drones exploded one after another. But for every one destroyed, two more appeared. Carter slammed his fist on the console. There's too many. They're trying to overload our shields. Jake clenched his jaw. Redirect all auxiliary power to shield grid and maneuver thrusters. Keep moving. Don't let them pin us down. The ship rolled, engines burning hot. The drones followed like angry sparks, but the Endeavor stayed ahead, shooting, weaving, fighting. Across the fleet, the battle raged. Ships exploded. Fighters darted between massive cruisers. The black sky was no longer silent, it was alive with fire. On the Atlas Prime, Admiral Hale stood with grim pride. Humanity stands today, he said to his crew. And we will not fall. The giant carrier's cannons fired. A massive beam cut through the enemy line, destroying two Zetherian warships in one shot. Cheers echoed across every human channel. Nice shot, Atlas. Carter shouted. But victory was short-lived. Captain. Ryan cried. The enemy's flagship, it's charging something. Massive energy spike. Jake's eyes narrowed. On screen. The image showed Velar's command ship, glowing with terrifying light. Blue energy gathered at its core, pulsing brighter and brighter. Dr. Grant's voice trembled. That's not a weapon blast, it's something bigger. The light burst outward, a wave of energy spread through space, invisible but powerful. Every system on the Endeavor flickered. Lights dimmed, consoles sparked. EMP pulse. Ryan yelled. They're trying to shut us down. Jake gritted his teeth. Reroute power. Manual override on all controls. Carter was already moving. Switching to analog backups. The ship trembled violently, alarms screaming. One by one, the systems blinked back to life, barely holding. Dr. Grant looked up. If that wave hit the colonies. Jake interrupted. Then we don't let it happen. Target their energy core. Prepare torpedoes, full yield. Carter stared at him. That'll expose us, sir. Jake nodded. It'll also end this. The crew moved fast. The Endeavor turned, diving straight toward the flagship. Enemy ships tried to intercept, but the human fleet followed, drawing their fire, covering the Endeavor like a wall of steel. Jake's voice was cold and clear. Fire torpedoes. Two bright lights shot forward. They struck the Zetherian ship's side. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a flash. A shockwave rolled through space. The flagship's shields collapsed. Its blue light turned white, then vanished. Velar's ship was crippled. The human fleet cheered. The first great victory. The first time humanity had struck fear into a galactic empire. Jake exhaled, sweat running down his temple. Status. Ryan smiled weakly. They're retreating, Captain. The rest of their fleet is pulling back. Carter grinned. We did it. Dr. Grant didn't smile. Her voice was quiet. No. We just made them angry. Jake looked out at the wreckage. The stars were bright again, but not peaceful. He could almost feel Velar's eyes watching from somewhere in the dark. They'll be back, he said softly. And next time, they won't underestimate us. Far away, in the black core of Zetherian space, Kess stood inside his damaged command chamber. Flames flickered around him, but his face was calm. He pressed a glowing device on his wrist. This is Kess. The humans have proven capable. Initiate Phase 2. Send the High War Fleet. The stars over Earth no longer looked peaceful. For the first time in human history, the sky above the blue planet carried a shadow, the shadow of war. In orbit, thousands of ships from the United Allied systems moved into position. Carriers, destroyers, and cruisers formed steel walls around Earth, their lights flickering like stars of their own. The UAS Endeavour floated near the fleet's center, its hull scarred from the first battle but still strong. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the command deck, watching Earth rotate slowly below. "It's beautiful," he murmured. "And it's about to become a battlefield." Commander Alex Carter stepped beside him. "All major colonies are evacuating civilians. Mars, Titan, Europa, everyone's pulling back to defensive orbit." Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her console. "We've detected new signals, Captain. Massive energy readings at the edge of the system." Jake turned sharply. "How massive?" She hesitated. "At least 5 times the size of the previous fleet." The bridge went silent. Lieutenant Ryan Beck checked his scanners again. "Sir, there's something else. A structure. Enormous. Bigger than anything we've ever seen." Jake's voice dropped to a whisper. "The High War Fleet." Hours later, alarms blared through every ship in the UAS network. Red warning lights flashed. Command stations lit up. Across the solar system, human voices shouted orders, loaded weapons, and prepared for what no one had believed possible. Admiral Hale's voice came through the intercom. "All UAS vessels, this is it. The Zetherian High Fleet is entering Sol space. No retreat. This is the line we hold. For Earth, for humanity, stand your ground." Every soldier, every pilot, every technician felt the weight of those words. Jake took a deep breath. "Bring us into formation with Atlas Prime. Power all weapon systems. I want every cannon ready." The Endeavour's engines roared to life. Outside, thousands of ships aligned into defensive arcs, surrounding Earth like an iron shield. And then, they came. From the darkness beyond Pluto, space itself seemed to crack open. A tear of blue light expanded, and through it emerged the Zetherian fleet, hundreds of warships, each glowing like a living storm. At the center was their command vessel, a monstrous ship shaped like a blade, its core pulsing with cold fire. Dr. Grant whispered, "It's like a planet, moving." Carter stared at the radar, reading energy spikes across the entire formation. "They're powering up every weapon they have." Jake's voice was steady, but his eyes were fierce. "Then so do we." The void between the two fleets pulsed once, then exploded into chaos. Beams of blue and red fire crossed the stars. Dozens of ships burned, others broke apart in silent flashes. The soundless war painted the blackness with light. "Endeavour to all ships," Jake ordered. "Hold the line. Protect Earth at all costs." The Atlas Prime unleashed a wave of plasma missiles. They struck 3 Zetherian ships, tearing through their shields. But the enemy kept advancing, unstoppable, endless. "Captain!" Ryan shouted. "Multiple hits across the fleet. The line at Mars defense is breaking. Divert 2 wings of fighters to support." Jake barked. Carter's hands moved quickly across his console. "Our shields are dropping, 60% and falling." Dr. Grant turned toward Jake. "If their flagship gets close enough, it'll fire that energy pulse again. It could disable half our fleet." Jake's eyes hardened. "Not if we take it down first." He looked at Carter. "Prepare a strike plan. I'm taking the Endeavour straight to the source." Carter froze. "Sir, that's suicide." Jake gave a small, grim smile. "Only if we fail." Minutes later, the Endeavour broke formation, engines blazing as it charged toward the massive flagship. Enemy fire surrounded it like a storm of light. The hull screamed as plasma blasts hit its shields. Inside the ship, alarms blared. "Shields at 20%. Ryan yelled. "Keep pushing." Jake shouted. "Lock torpedoes on the enemy core." Dr. Grant's eyes widened as the view of the flagship filled the screen. "It's generating some kind of shield wave. If we fire now, it'll deflect everything." Jake clenched his fists. "Then we get closer." The Endeavor roared through the chaos, dodging wreckage and fire. The enemy ship loomed larger, a floating city of blue light and metal claws. "Distance, 2,000 kilometers, Ryan said. "Steady," Jake whispered. A sudden blast hit the Endeavor's left wing. The ship lurched violently. Sparks filled the bridge. Carter shouted. "We lost engine control." Jake steadied himself. "Reroute auxiliary power. We're not stopping here." Dr. Grant looked at him, eyes full of fear and determination. "Jake, if we hit their core, that ship will explode. We won't survive the blast." He looked back at her. "Then Earth will." She stared at him, speechless, then nodded. "Let's finish this." Carter's voice was steady again. "Weapons locked." Jake's hand hovered over the control. His voice was calm, strong. "Fire everything." The Endeavor unleashed its full fury, plasma torpedoes, rail bursts, and laser fire all striking the Zetherian core. For a moment, the flagship's shields shimmered, then shattered. The enemy ship glowed brighter and brighter until its light filled the entire sky. "Brace for impact," Jake shouted. A wave of white fire washed over everything. Silence. The screens went dark. The bridge filled with smoke. Then, slowly, systems flickered back to life. "Captain," Ryan whispered, voice shaking. "The flagship, it's gone." Dr. Grant looked up at the view. The massive Zetherian vessel had vanished, only debris and glowing fragments remained. Carter exhaled. "We did it. We stopped the pulse." Jake looked at the stars. The enemy fleet was retreating, their formation breaking apart. Humanity had survived, for now. But Jake's face wasn't full of victory. It was full of worry. "They'll return," he said softly. "And next time, it won't just be a fleet." Far beyond human space, in the dark heart of the Zetherian Empire, the High Chancellor watched the destruction from her throne of crystal. Her voice was a whisper of rage. "So, the humans think they can resist." She raised a hand. Dozens of other alien leaders knelt before her. "Then let the galaxy see what defiance costs. Prepare the world breakers." Silence had returned to the solar system, but it was not peace. The wreckage of ships floated like metal ghosts between Mars and Jupiter. Thousands of lives were gone, and yet Earth still stood. Humanity had survived the first real space war, but everyone knew it was only the beginning. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the Endeavor's medical bay, his left arm wrapped in a bandage. The ship's lights were dim. Dr. Lisa Grant entered quietly, holding a small datapad. "They're saying we lost 37% of the fleet," she said softly. Jake nodded. "And the rest?" "Repairing, regrouping. Command is moving operations to Luna Base. They want you there within the hour." Jake stood slowly, pain flashing across his face. "If the High Fleet failed, the Zetherians will send something worse." Dr. Grant hesitated. "There are reports from deep space. Strange readings on long-range sensors. Massive energy waves, moving toward us." Jake turned to her. "How massive?" She met his eyes. "Big enough to destroy planets." At Luna Base, the War Council gathered. Holograms of Earth's top commanders flickered above the round table. Admiral Hale, still in his damaged uniform, looked older than ever. He spoke gravely. "Our scouts confirm the Zetherians are mobilizing a new weapon, something they call world breakers. These are not ships. They are machines the size of moons, designed to shatter worlds from orbit." The room went quiet. Jake clenched his fists. How long until they reach us? Less than 4 weeks, Hale replied. They're traveling through slip-space corridors. If we don't stop them before they enter the system, Earth won't survive. Commander Alex Carter leaned forward. What about our new prototype? The Prometheus project, the dreadnought we've been building in the Kuiper Belt. Hale nodded slowly. It's nearly ready, but we need more time. And time is something we don't have. Dr. Grant activated her tablet. A holographic projection of a Zetherian worldbreaker appeared, a massive sphere covered in glowing veins of blue energy. According to intercepted data, she explained, these things use gravitational collapse to crush planets. They generate black hole-level energy. Even our biggest ships can't match that directly. Jake's voice was low. Then we don't fight it directly. We find its weakness. Carter frowned. You're thinking of going inside one of those things, aren't you? Jake looked up. If that's what it takes. 3 days later, the Endeavour departed Luna Base with a small strike team, scientists, engineers, and elite soldiers. Their mission: intercept the first worldbreaker before it reached the inner system. Space was quiet again, but this time it felt heavy, like the calm before a hurricane. Lieutenant Ryan Beck sat at the sensor station. Captain, long-range scanners picking up gravitational spikes ahead. That's our target. Jake stood at the window. The object appeared like a black sun, enormous, alive, and silent. Blue lightning danced across its surface. Distance? Jake asked. 3 million kilometers, Beck replied. Dr. Grant watched in awe. It's pulling in asteroids with its gravity. It's feeding. Jake turned to his crew. Prepare stealth systems. We're going in close. The Endeavour slid through the darkness, its engine silent, its heat signatures hidden. As they approached, the view grew terrifying, mountains of metal and energy swirling in slow motion around the machine. Carter muttered, "It's not a ship, it's a world." Jake pointed. "See that? The energy vents near the equator. If we can plant fusion charges inside those, it might overload the core." Dr. Grant checked her readings. That could work, but we'd need to get within 2 kilometers. Any closer, and the gravity will crush us. Jake smiled grimly. Guess we'll just have to fly better than we ever have. The closer they got, the more the ship groaned. Metal creaked. Alarms flashed. Gravity waves pulled at the hull like invisible claws. Compensating thrusters at maximum. Beck shouted. Carter's hands flew over the controls. If this keeps up, the engines will burn out. Not yet, Jake said. Hold steady. The ship slipped through a debris field, dodging huge spinning chunks of rock and metal. Finally, the Endeavour reached the vent structure, a vast tunnel glowing with blue plasma. Deploying drones, Dr. Grant said. Tiny robotic pods launched from the ship, carrying explosive charges. But before they could reach the vent, the worldbreaker reacted. Its surface opened like a giant eye, and fired a beam of blinding light. Brace! Jake yelled. The beam grazed the Endeavour, tearing part of the outer hull. The ship spun violently, alarms screaming. We've lost engine control. Beck shouted. Stabilize! Carter yelled. Jake grabbed the railing. Grant, detonate the charges now. They're not in position, she shouted back. Now! Dr. Grant hit the trigger. The explosion rippled through the vent, a blinding flash that shook the entire structure. For a moment, the worldbreaker's glow dimmed. Then it roared back to life. Jake's eyes widened. It's repairing itself. Carter slammed his fist on the console. That thing's alive. Dr. Grant's voice trembled. No, not alive, controlled. There's something inside it. Jake looked at her sharply. A pilot. She nodded. Maybe more than one. Jake stared at the monstrous sphere as it continued moving toward Earth. Then that's our new mission, he said quietly. We find out who's controlling it, and we stop them. Far away, deep inside the Worldbreaker, alien figures stood before a control core that pulsed like a heart. Their leader, Velar Kess, the same alien who had first spoken to Jake, looked at the human ship on his screen. He smiled coldly. They survived again. Impressive. But now, let them witness the fall of their world. The massive machine turned toward the sun, gathering energy. Its next target, Earth. The stars were quiet again, but the silence felt wrong. Too heavy, too dark. The war was not over. Humanity had won one battle, but everyone on Earth knew the Zetherians would return. They always did. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, his hands resting on the control panel. The ship was floating near the moon, surrounded by the damaged remains of the fleet. Hundreds of broken ships drifted in space like dead whales. Commander Alex Carter entered the bridge. "Repairs are moving fast, sir. But we lost almost 40% of our fleet." Jake's jaw tightened. 40%. And for what? Just to make them angry. Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her console. "They're not angry, Captain. They're planning something. The signals we're tracking, they're not normal." Jake turned. "Signals?" "Yes," she said. "Massive gravitational waves from deep space. Something huge is moving toward us." Jake's expression hardened. "How huge?" Lisa swallowed. "As big as a moon." At Luna Command Base, the emergency council was gathered. Holograms of admirals, scientists, and generals filled the war room. Admiral Hale stood at the center, his face pale but steady. "Gentlemen and ladies," he began, "we've confirmed it. The Zetherians have launched a new class of weapon. They call them Worldbreakers. These are not ships. They are planet killers." A murmur spread through the room. Dr. Grant brought up a holographic image. It showed a gigantic sphere, glowing with blue light. Its surface pulsed like a living thing. "These machines," she said, "use gravitational collapse to crush entire planets. One of them could destroy Earth in minutes." Jake crossed his arms. "How long until it reaches us?" 30 days, Admiral Hale answered. "It's already moving through the outer system. If we don't stop it before it reaches Mars, it'll be too late." Carter leaned forward. "Can our weapons even scratch something like that?" "Not likely," Hale said grimly. "But the engineers on Titan are finishing the Prometheus, our first human dreadnought. If we can power it in time, it might stand a chance." Jake's eyes narrowed. "Then we buy them time." 3 days later, the Endeavour and 3 smaller ships began their mission: intercept the approaching Worldbreaker. The crew worked silently. They all knew what this meant. Lieutenant Ryan Beck monitored the scanners. "Captain, I have visual contact. It's enormous." The image appeared on the main screen. Everyone on the bridge fell silent. The Worldbreaker filled the view like a second planet, a vast sphere of metal and energy, spinning slowly, its surface alive with glowing veins. It dragged asteroids toward itself, crushing them into dust with invisible force. Dr. Grant whispered, "It's feeding. It's building power." Jake stared at the monster. "Then we'll stop it before it reaches full strength." "What's our plan?" Carter pointed at the glowing patterns around its equator. "That's the vent system. If we plant fusion bombs inside those, we might overload its core." Lisa nodded. "But the closer we get, the stronger the gravity becomes. One wrong move, and the ship will be torn apart." Jake smiled faintly. "Then we don't make a wrong move." The Endeavour went dark, engines low, lights off, systems masked. It moved silently toward the Worldbreaker like a ghost. As they got closer, the ship started to shake. "Gravity pressure increasing," Beck reported. "We're reaching the danger limit." Carter's hands moved fast across the console, holding thrusters steady. Dr. Grant adjusted the readings. "We need to get within 5 kilometers to launch the drones. Any farther, and they'll miss." Jake's voice was calm. "Do it." The Endeavour slipped closer. Alarms began to flash. The ship's metal frame groaned under the invisible pull. "Now!" Jake ordered. Lisa hit the control. Four small drones shot out of the ship, carrying powerful fusion charges. They raced toward the glowing vents of the Worldbreaker. "Drones in position," Beck said. "Good," Jake replied. "Detonate." The explosions lit the surface in a burst of white light. The shockwave rocked the Endeavour, throwing sparks across the bridge. Carter grinned. "We did it. Its power readings are dropping." But then Lisa froze. "Wait, something's wrong." The blue light of the Worldbreaker brightened again, stronger than before. The vents they had destroyed were repairing themselves. Jake's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's healing." Beck shouted. "Captain! New energy readings, from inside the structure." The holographic display changed. Deep within the sphere, a strange pulse flickered, like a heartbeat. Dr. Grant's face turned pale. "It's not just a machine. It's alive. Or, controlled." Jake frowned. "Controlled? By who?" Lisa looked up slowly. "Maybe by the same being who first contacted us." Far across the galaxy, deep inside the glowing core of the Worldbreaker, Wheeler Kess stood before a vast control chamber. His blue skin reflected the pulsing light of the core. He smiled as he watched the image of the human ship fighting against the gravitational storms. "They survived the High Fleet," he said softly. "But this time, they face the will of the Confederation itself." A massive alien figure appeared beside him, its voice deep and metallic. "Shall we begin the cleansing?" Wheeler Kess nodded slowly. "Begin. Let them learn that peace was their last mistake." Back aboard the Endeavour, alarms screamed as the Worldbreaker began to move. A giant beam of blue light erupted from its surface, cutting through the dark. Ryan shouted. "It's charging a main weapon." Jake's voice thundered. "All engines full power. Get us out of range. Now." The ship sped away as the beam sliced through space, vaporizing everything in its path. The shockwave hit them moments later, throwing everyone against the walls. Carter gasped, "If that thing reaches Earth, we won't stand a chance." Jake looked out the window, his eyes cold, determined. "No," he said. "We're not running anymore. We find a way inside that thing." Dr. Grant nodded slowly. "Then what?" Jake looked at her. "Then we kill whatever's controlling it." Far away, the Worldbreaker turned its glowing core toward Earth. Its power built like a rising storm. And in that cold light, one truth became clear. The real war for humanity had just begun. The Endeavour drifted in the shadows of Saturn's rings, its hull scarred and burned. The stars outside glowed faintly through the dust and ice. Inside, the crew worked in silence, tired, but unbroken. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the main console, his eyes fixed on the holographic image of the Worldbreaker. It was now halfway between Jupiter and Mars, its massive form moving slowly but steadily toward Earth. Dr. Lisa Grant studied the readings. "It's increasing energy output again. If it reaches the inner system, the gravity wave will destroy everything, even the moon." Commander Alex Carter clenched his fists. "So what do we do, Captain? Our fleet can't stop that thing. We barely scratched it last time." Jake looked at the data, the same impossible readings flashing over and over. He took a deep breath. "We stop it from the inside." Carter turned sharply. "You can't be serious." "I am," Jake replied. "Dr. Grant said there's a living core inside. That means it can be reached. If we can get a team inside that structure, maybe we can destroy it from within." Lisa frowned. "Even if we find a way in, Captain, the gravity fields near the surface are deadly. A normal ship would be crushed." Jake looked at her. "Then we'll need something smaller. Something fast." Hours later, deep in the Endeavour's hangar bay, the engineering teams worked on a small black craft, the Phantom. It was built for stealth missions, only big enough for 4 people. Its surface shimmered with adaptive armor designed to hide from scanners. Jake walked around the ship, checking every detail. Carter joined him. "It's suicide, sir. You know that, right?" Jake gave a small smile. "Yeah. But better suicide than watching Earth burn." Carter sighed. "Then I'm going with you." Lisa stepped forward. "Me too." Jake shook his head. "No. I need you both here. If we fail, someone has to lead the fleet." Lisa crossed her arms. "If that thing is alive, I'm the only one who can understand what we're dealing with. You'll need me." Jake hesitated, then nodded. "All right. You're in." He looked at Carter. "You too, Commander. But Ryan stays here to command the Endeavor." Ryan Beck saluted from the control deck above. "Good luck, sir. We'll cover you as long as we can." The Phantom detached from the Endeavor and slipped silently into the darkness. Its engines made no sound, only a faint blue shimmer as it glided toward the colossal worldbreaker. The machine filled the entire view, endless metal planes, glowing rivers of energy, and enormous plates that moved like muscle. Lisa whispered, "It's beautiful. In a terrifying way." Jake focused on the controls. "Find us a way in." She scanned the surface. There, a vent near the lower hemisphere. It's releasing plasma exhaust every few seconds. If we time it right, we can slip through. Carter nodded. If we time it wrong, we'll be turned to ash. Jake smirked. Then let's not time it wrong. The ship approached the vent, a circular opening glowing white-hot. Massive waves of plasma burst out every 10 seconds. Jake waited, eyes locked on the countdown. Now. The Phantom shot forward, weaving through the fire like a shadow. The ship shuddered violently as heat warnings blared, but it made it through. Inside, everything glowed blue and silver. Strange metallic walls curved in every direction, pulsing with light. Lisa stared at her readings. It's like being inside a living creature. The walls are moving, reacting to us. Carter gripped his weapon. Feels like it's watching. Jake kept the ship steady. Stay focused. We find the core, plant the fusion charge, and get out. As they moved deeper inside, the walls began to shift, forming strange, organic patterns. The tunnel narrowed, then opened into a massive chamber. At the center floated a huge crystal sphere, surrounded by cables of energy, the heart core. Lisa's voice trembled. "That's it. That's what controls the entire structure." Jake landed the Phantom on a platform nearby. The three stepped out in exosuits, their visors glowing faintly. As soon as they touched the ground, the chamber came alive. Blue light surged through the walls. A deep, echoing voice filled the air. "Human trespassers. You dare enter the core of the Confederation's wrath." Carter raised his rifle. "Show yourself." From the energy field, a familiar face appeared, Wheeler Kess. He looked calm, even proud. His 4 arms folded across his chest as his black eyes glowed. "I warned you, Captain Morrison. Peace or extinction. You chose war." Jake stepped forward. "You call it peace. We call it slavery." Wheeler's image flickered with anger. "You think you can stop the world breaker? It is beyond your understanding. Even if you destroy one, there are hundreds more." Lisa shouted, "Then we'll destroy them all." Wheeler smiled coldly. "You won't even destroy this one." Suddenly, the chamber shook. The cables around the core lit up, and energy waves blasted outward. "Captain!" Carter yelled. "The walls are closing." Jake shouted, "Plant the charges now." Lisa rushed to the console near the core, attaching the fusion detonator. Sparks flew as she worked. Wheeler's image flickered again. "You humans never learn. You fight because you are afraid." Jake replied through clenched teeth. "No. We fight because we remember what freedom means." The device beeped, armed and ready. "Charges set." Lisa called. Then let's move. Jake yelled. They ran toward the Phantom as explosions began to ripple through the chamber. Energy arcs flashed across the walls. Hang on! Jake shouted as the ship launched back through the tunnels, dodging collapsing metal and waves of blue fire. The world breaker shook violently. From space, the Endeavour saw the massive structure glowing brighter and brighter. Captain Morrison, get out of there! Ryan's voice screamed through the comm. Jake's reply was drowned by static. A final flash of white light filled the sky, and the world breaker exploded. Silence followed. Hours later, the Phantom emerged from the debris field, its hull burned but intact. Jake's tired voice came through the comm. This is Captain Morrison. Mission complete. The world breaker is down. Cheers erupted across the fleet. But Lisa, sitting beside him, stared at the readings. Her face went pale. Jake, she whispered. There's another signal. Bigger. Stronger. They're sending more. Jake looked out at the stars, endless, cold, and filled with war. Then, he said quietly, we go again. The blackness of space glowed with fire once more. The world breaker was gone, but the war had only begun. From the wreckage near Mars, the Endeavour floated quietly, its engines running low. Inside, Captain Jake Morrison watched as holographic screens filled the air around him. Every display showed the same terrifying truth. More Zetherian ships were coming. Dr. Lisa Grant stood beside him, pale and shaken. I've confirmed the readings, Captain. It's not just another fleet. It's a full invasion armada, at least 50 capital ships, and 2 new world breakers. Commander Alex Carter slammed his fist against the console. We just destroyed one. How many do they have? Lisa's voice was quiet. Hundreds, maybe thousands. But these 2, they're different. Faster. Stronger. Jake didn't answer. He looked out the window at the red glow of Mars, the wreckage spinning slowly past. Then this is it, he said finally. The final wave. On Luna Command Base, the emergency alarms blared. Generals and scientists filled the war room. Admiral Hale appeared on the holoscreen, his face grave but proud. All units, this is the last stand. The Zetherian main force will reach Earth in 72 hours. All remaining fleets are ordered to regroup at Titan shipyards. Jake's image appeared beside the Admiral. Sir, the Endeavour is heavily damaged, but we're still flight capable. What's our objective? Hale gave a thin smile. Your timing couldn't be better, Captain. Project Prometheus is ready. The entire room fell silent. Lisa's eyes widened. The human dreadnought? Hale nodded. Our first and only one. The largest ship ever built by mankind, armed with experimental plasma cores and quantum rail cannons. It's the only thing that might match a world breaker in power. Jake's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. Then give me the Prometheus, Admiral. I'll finish this. 2 days later, the Endeavour approached the icy rings of Titan. Floating above the moon was a sight that stole everyone's breath, a colossal ship, 5 times larger than any human vessel before it. The UAS Prometheus. Its black hull shimmered with silver lines of power. Rows of cannons lined its sides, and its engines glowed like suns. Around it, hundreds of small repair ships worked non-stop, making final adjustments. Carter whistled softly. That's not a ship. That's a city with guns. Jake stared at it, silent for a moment. Then he said quietly, it's humanity's last hope. The Endeavour docked with the Prometheus, and the crew transferred aboard. Inside, everything was new. Sleek corridors, advanced systems, and massive viewing decks. Lisa ran her fingers across the control panels. This technology, it's years ahead of what we were building. How did they finish it so fast? A voice came from behind them. Because everyone on Earth worked together. They turned to see Admiral Hale entering the bridge, his uniform crisp, his face lined with exhaustion. Every engineer, every scientist, every colony, All of them. Humanity finally stopped fighting itself. Jake saluted. Then let's make that unity mean something. Hale nodded. You'll have command, Captain. The Prometheus is yours. Jake hesitated. Sir, what about the other fleets? They're gathering near Jupiter. You'll lead the main strike. Destroy those world-breakers before they reach Earth. Jake nodded once. Understood. Hours later, the Prometheus moved out of Titan's orbit, its engines shaking the stars themselves. The massive ship glided forward, followed by hundreds of smaller vessels. Humanity's last fleet had risen. Fleet in formation, Carter reported. All systems online. Lisa looked at her scanners. Enemy armada detected. 2 world-breakers leading the front. Distance, 20 million kilometers and closing. Jake took a deep breath. Then let's show them what Earth can do. The battle began. The Zetherian fleet emerged from the void like a swarm of blue fire. Thousands of ships opened fire at once, beams of energy slicing through the dark. The Prometheus returned fire, massive rail cannons thundering with the force of small suns. Each shot tore through enemy ships, turning them into glowing fragments. But the world-breakers pushed forward, their shields flashing like lightning. Target the nearest world-breaker, Jake ordered. Locked. Carter shouted. Firing plasma torpedoes. The massive ship unleashed a volley of glowing missiles. They struck the surface of the world-breaker, tearing through its armor, but not destroying it. Lisa frowned. It's adapting. Their shields are reconfiguring to our weapons. Then we change the game, Jake said. Prepare the Prometheus core. Lisa froze. The prototype weapon. It's unstable. Jake looked at her. So are we. Deep inside the Prometheus, a bright red light began to glow. Energy built up in the ship's central cannon, a weapon powered by a miniature star. Carter shouted over the alarms, energy levels critical. Jake pointed forward. Fire! The ship's main cannon roared, a beam of white-hot plasma cutting through space like a blade. It struck the world-breaker dead center, tearing a hole clean through its core. The massive sphere convulsed, its blue light flickering wildly, then it exploded, lighting the sky brighter than the sun. Cheers filled the bridge. Lisa smiled weakly. 1 down. But her smile faded as new readings appeared. Captain, the second world-breaker is charging something. A gravity pulse. It's targeting us. Jake's eyes widened. All power to shields. The next instant, the ship shook violently. The lights went out. The gravity wave smashed through the Prometheus, throwing everyone to the floor. Carter coughed. Shields at 15%. Hull breach on deck 4. Jake steadied himself. Reroute power. Aim for the core. Lisa shouted. We can't. The main cannon's overheating. Jake looked out the viewport. The world-breaker loomed closer, its energy building like a storm. He whispered, "Not this time." He slammed his hand on the emergency control. Overload the core. All power to the main gun. Lisa's eyes widened. Jake, that could destroy the ship. He looked at her, calm but fierce. If it saves Earth, it's worth it. The Prometheus's engines roared. Energy built until the hull began to crack. The massive cannon glowed brighter and brighter, until it finally fired. A blinding beam cut through the dark and hit the world-breaker. For a moment, everything stopped. Then, silence. The alien machine shattered into 1,000 burning fragments. The blast faded. The stars returned. And the Prometheus, though damaged, still floated, alive. Hours later, the surviving fleet gathered near Earth. The battle was over. The sky was peaceful again. Jake stood on the viewing deck, watching the blue planet spin below. Lisa walked beside him. "It's over," she said softly. Jake smiled faintly. "For now." Carter joined them. "The Zetherians won't forget this." Jake nodded. Good. Let them remember. Humanity stood up. And we didn't fall. Far across the galaxy, deep within the Zetherian throne world, Velar Kess watched the human victory through a shimmering screen. He clenched his hands, fury burning in his eyes. They survived again, he whispered. Then the real war begins. Behind him, stars on a galactic map lit up, one by one.